Hello, I'm Martin Park. For those that don't know me, I'm a naturopath and a master coach and trainer who has been working professionally in health, fitness, wellness, and personal development for over 46 years. If you are someone who is interested in learning how to maximize your overall health, well-being, and performance, then welcome. Today, we're diving into something that affects every single one of us, though most people go through their entire lives never recognizing its real power and control. I'm talking about limiting beliefs, those silent saboteurs that keep you small and stuck as they quietly dictate what you think is possible for your life, convincing you that this is how things are. And these aren't just thoughts or casual observations. They are the rules that govern your existence, prison bars you've constructed around your own potential, unquestioned and unyielding. So today, we are going to grab a sledgehammer and start swinging away at them. And in doing so, we'll shatter the illusions that hold you back, clearing the way for a life defined not by what you've accepted, but by what you dare to imagine. For that to happen, there are 5 critical aspects you need to understand. 1, what exactly are limiting beliefs and where do they come from? 2, how do limiting beliefs differ from negative self-talk and self-doubt? 3, how do you identify your own limiting beliefs? 4, the art of distinguishing between genuine limitations and false barriers. And 5, practical strategies for dismantling limiting beliefs once and for all. Let's begin with understanding what limiting beliefs actually are. A limiting belief isn't just a negative thought. It's a deeply held conviction about what is possible or impossible for you. It's not, I feel nervous about public speaking. It's, I am fundamentally incapable of being a good public speaker. The first is a statement of your feelings toward public speaking. The second is a statement of fact and truth that you have decided to believe that will hold you in check forever unless challenged and changed. And that's what makes them so insidious. Most limiting beliefs are completely unconscious, operating like invisible software running in the background of your mind, filtering how you perceive opportunities, challenges, and your own capabilities. You don't question them because you don't even recognize them as beliefs. To you, they feel like facts about your reality. They feel like absolute truths, not opinions, not perspectives, but concrete realities about the world and your place in it. So where do they come from? Everywhere. Childhood stumbles, society's rulebook, old wounds and failures, voices of authority, twisted takes on life, and misunderstandings of reality. Back in the day, people believed if you sailed too far, you'd fall off the edge of the earth. That belief temporarily killed exploration, but luckily not physics. The key insight here is that limiting beliefs rarely have anything to do with your actual capabilities. They're almost always distortions and outdated protection mechanisms that have long outlived their usefulness. So what's the difference between limiting beliefs and other forms of negative internal patterns like negative self-talk and self-doubt? Negative self-talk, which I talked about in episode 113, is the running commentary in your head, the voice that criticizes, judges, and narrates your actions and choices. It might say things like, that was a stupid thing to say, or you're going to mess this up as usual. It's situational, reactive, and often temporary and changeable. Self-doubt, which I covered in episode 29, is questioning your ability or judgment in specific moments or circumstances. It's the hesitation you get before a big presentation or the uncertainty when facing a difficult decision. While it can be negative and limiting if overdone or unnecessary, self-doubt can actually be healthy in moderation as it keeps us humble and thoughtful. But limiting beliefs are fundamentally different. They're not temporary states or situational reactions. They are embedded assumptions about what is possible or impossible for you. They're the background operating system, not the applications running on top of it. Here's a practical example to illustrate the difference. When facing a challenging task, negative self-talk says, forget it, you'll make a mess of it. Self-doubt says, I'm not sure if I can handle this specific challenge. A limiting belief says, I'm not the kind of person who can ever succeed at things like this. Can you feel the difference? The limiting belief isn't about the situation. It's about your fundamental identity and capabilities. Here is another example. You're wanting to include something into an already busy lifestyle. Think exercise or course or a new hobby. Negative self-talk says, you're already behind on your current load. Self-doubt says, I'm not sure I can include something else within my present schedule. A limiting belief says, I'm too busy, so it's impossible for me to do it. Again, the limiting belief isn't about the situation. It's about your fundamental belief regarding your capabilities. which leads us to the next critical question. How do you identify your own limiting beliefs? This is tricky precisely because limiting beliefs masterfully disguise themselves as facts. They don't announce themselves, they simply hide in plain sight as common sense or just the way things are. So how do you find them? Here are some powerful signals that you're dealing with a limiting belief. 1. Listen for absolute language. Phrases like, I could never, I always, that's impossible, or I'm just not the kind of person who, or it's not what I'm good at, are bright red flags signaling limiting beliefs at work. 2. Pay attention to your explanations. When you explain why something didn't work, what story do you tell? I didn't get the promotion because I'm not leadership material reveals a limiting belief. I didn't get the promotion because my presentation skills need improvement does not. 3. Notice areas where you don't even try. Sometimes the most powerful limiting beliefs manifest as domains you automatically exclude from consideration. If you've never even contemplated certain careers, relationships, or experiences because they seem not for people like me, you're likely dealing with limiting beliefs. 4. Track emotional triggers. When do you feel disproportionately defensive, angry, or dismissive? Strong emotional reactions often signal that a limiting belief is being challenged. If a coach or friend or partner suggests something that they believe you could be good at or would like, and your initial reaction is to become defensive or dismissing as you disagree, then a limiting belief is being challenged. 5. Look for patterns. If you keep encountering the same obstacles or challenges throughout your life, there's likely a limiting belief driving the pattern. And 6, question everything. Any belief steering your directions, poke at them hard. I'm not a leader. Who says? Have you ever tried? I'm not creative. Who decided that? And why do you believe them? I shouldn't rock the boat. Is that keeping you safe or just keeping someone else comfortable? I'm a negative person. Are you positive about that? A particularly effective method of questioning is what I call the 5 whys. When you encounter resistance to a goal or dream, ask yourself why 5 times in succession, digging deeper each time. For example, why haven't I started that project I've been talking about? Because I don't have enough time. Why don't I have enough time? Because I'm too busy with my current workload. Why am I too busy with my current workload? Because I burden myself with too much responsibility. Why do I burden myself with too much responsibility? Because I need to prove my worth through overachievement. Why do I need to prove my worth through overachievement? Because deep down, I believe I'm not valuable unless I'm producing at an exceptional level. And boom, there's your limiting belief. Not that you don't have time, but that your value as a human being is contingent on constant productivity and achievement in your current world. This brings us to point 4, and perhaps the most challenging aspect, distinguishing between genuine limitations and false barriers. Because here's the truth, some limitations are real. I might desperately want to be an astronaut, but at my age, 67, and with no science degree, NASA's not calling anytime soon. The physical laws of the universe, biological constraints, and certain societal structures do create real boundaries. The question then becomes, how do you tell the difference between a genuine limitation and a false barrier created by your beliefs? Here are some guidelines. Physical impossibilities are real limitations. No matter how much you believe, you cannot flap your arms and fly unaided to the moon. And that breathing underwater like a fish goal, it's not happening. Accepting real physical constraints is wisdom, not defeatism. Most skill barriers are limiting beliefs. I'm not good at math or I don't have a head for business are almost always limiting beliefs, not true limitations. With proper training, support and persistence, most skills can be developed to a high level of proficiency by anyone. Most personality traits are more flexible than you think. While certain temperamental tendencies may be innate, statements like, I'm just not a confident person, or I'm naturally disorganized or disposed to laziness are typically limiting beliefs. But personality, like the brain, has far more plasticity than most people realize. Social and cultural barriers are complex. Some societal barriers are very real and require systemic change, while others exist primarily in our perception. Wisdom lies in distinguishing between fighting against genuine injustice versus allowing perceived barriers to limit your actions. Sometimes the limitation is real, but your interpretation of what that means for your life is the limiting belief. For example, having dyslexia is a real condition that makes certain aspects of reading more challenging. That's a limitation. But believing because I have dyslexia, I can never be successful in academic pursuits is a limiting belief, as demonstrated by the many highly accomplished individuals with dyslexia. But the true test, though, is experimentation, as the ultimate way to distinguish between a real limitation and a limiting belief is controlled experimentation. Pick a small action your limiting belief labels as impossible, say carving out 30 minutes for something you never have time for, and test it. See what happens. You might find the belief crumbles under the weight of reality, or at least starts to crack, revealing what's actually possible. Now let's get to the most important part. How do you actually dismantle limiting beliefs once you've identified them? It's not easy, and it's a multi-step process that requires commitment, but the results can be life-changing. I will run through the steps, then give you an example. Step 1, name the limiting belief. Make it explicit. Write it down in its most honest form. Don't sanitize it. Get it on paper exactly as it exists in your mind. Step 2, examine the evidence. What actual evidence do you have that this belief is true? Not interpretations or fears, concrete evidence. Then look for counter evidence, examples from your own life or others that contradict this belief. Step 3, trace the belief's origins. When did you first adopt this belief? What was happening in your life? Understanding that many limiting beliefs were formed when you were young, inexperienced, or in pain or trouble can reduce their power. Step 4, create a more empowering alternative belief. And this isn't about delusional positive thinking. It's about creating a more accurate and useful interpretation of your reality. For example, replacing "I'm not creative" with "creativity is a skill I can and will develop with practice." Step 5, gather evidence for the new belief. Actively look for examples that support your new perspective. Keep a journal of instances, no matter how small, that validate your new, more empowering view. Step 6, take incremental action. Design small experiments that challenge your limiting beliefs, as each successful action builds evidence for your new belief and weakens the old one. And finally, step 7, find models, templates, and mentors. Seek out people who have already broken through the limitation you are working on. Their example will prove what's possible, plus provide a possible roadmap. Here is a concrete example of how this process works. Imagine someone with a limiting belief, "I'm too old to change careers." Step 1, they name it explicitly. "I believe that at 45, I'm too old to start a new career as a screenwriter." Step 2, they examine the evidence. What actual proof do they have that 45 is too old? None really. As counter evidence, they research and find dozens of examples of people who successfully changed careers in their 40s, 50s, and beyond. Step 3, they trace the origin. Perhaps they grew up hearing adults say, "You can't teach an old dog new tricks," or they watched their parents stay in unfulfilling jobs because it was too late to change and lose the security. Step 4, they create an alternative belief. Age gives me advantages in starting a new career: wisdom, perspective, drive, and transferable skills from my previous work. Step 5, they gather evidence for the new belief, such as their existing skills that will transfer well, their ability to learn quickly that's been demonstrated in other areas of their life, and examples of other midlife changes who succeeded. Like Bryce Courtney, the author of the book The Power of One, who didn't start writing novels until he was in his 50s after he was diagnosed with stomach cancer, and he switched from a successful career in advertising and marketing to pursue his dream of being an author. Step 6, they take action by enrolling in an evening class in screenwriting, creating their first scripts and getting feedback, building evidence that they can indeed learn this new skill. Step 7, they join communities and find mentors who have made similar transitions, learning from their experiences and seeing living proof that their goal is achievable. Through this process, the limiting belief will gradually lose its power, replaced by a more accurate and empowering perspective. Now, I could wrap up this podcast at that, but I want to address some common pitfalls and challenges that you will find if you attempt to address your personal limiting beliefs, as like I said previously, it's not easy. First, be wary of the pendulum swing. That is, replacing a limiting belief with an equally unrealistic positive belief, such as replacing "I will never be able to sing" with "I will become the next Tom Jones." The goal isn't blind optimism, it's clear-eyed assessment of what's truly possible. Second, understand that dismantling deeply held limiting beliefs takes time. These are neural pathways that have been reinforced for years or decades. Be patient and persistent. Third, recognize that limiting beliefs rarely travel alone. They typically form interconnected networks. Addressing one often reveals others hiding beneath it. For example, say you believe, I'm not good with money. That might link to, I'll never save anything, or people like me don't get rich, or even, I'm too impulsive to try. They're a tangle. Shift one and another trips you up unless you stay vigilant. Fourth, be prepared for resistance, both internal and external. When you start challenging limiting beliefs, your brain will fight back with anxiety, doubt, and rationalization. And sometimes people around you, comfortable with the old you, will subtly or overtly try to pull you back to familiar patterns. And finally, remember that this work isn't about becoming someone else. It's about removing the artificial constraints you've placed on who you already are. Because here's the truth, most of us are capable of far more than we believe. The greatest tragedy isn't failing to achieve our goals. It's never giving yourself permission to truly pursue them in the first place. I want to leave you with a question that you can ask yourself that has the potential to transform your approach to your limitations. And that is, what if I am wrong about what is possible for me? Just sit with that question. Let it percolate through your consciousness. If you want to be all logical, then apply it to areas where you feel stuck, constrained, or resigned. Just say to yourself, what if I'm wrong about what is possible for me? This isn't about magical thinking or denying reality. It's about recognizing that our perception of reality, especially our place in it, is heavily filtered through beliefs we've accumulated throughout our lives, many of which are distorted, outdated, or simply false. So let me challenge you. This week, identify one limiting belief that has been holding you back. Apply the 7-step process I've outlined. Take one small action that challenges that belief and watch what happens, not just to your circumstances, but to your sense of what's possible. Because when you start questioning the rules you've lived by, rules you never even chose, everything can shift. Not overnight, but if I'm right, and trust me I am, it's inevitable. As John Keating, brought to life by the unmatched Robin Williams, said to his students in Peter Weir's masterpiece, Dead Poets Society, Carpe diem, seize the day. For those that need my assistance with any of this, I will leave a link in the description. I thank you for tuning in today. I appreciate your company. I look forward to spending some time with you again. Bye for now.